The Philippines is renowned for sending its workers to fill jobs all over the world. But now, a growing multi-billion-dollar industry is enabling many young Filipinos to find work here at home.
It's created an opportunity for young people to basically work for a Fortune 500 multinational, having an international job without leaving the Philippines.
Manila is the world's new call centre capital, overtaking India.
Filipinos are really good in conversing in English.
Being a call center would give you more opportunities to grow.
You can earn almost as much as what you'd earn abroad.
What the call center industry can give to every Filipino is to help them achieve their dreams.
But critics say it's not fostering talent and could impact other professions needing educated employees.
For now, we are basking in the glory, but we have not really seen the implication of our people going into jobs which do not really contribute, aside from economically, to our national development.
I'm Drew Ambrose. On this edition of 101 East, we examine the booming outsourcing industry in the Philippines and ask if there are limits to its success. It's midnight in Manila, and the United States is wide awake. So are thousands of Filipinos providing customer service to US clients. 4 years ago, JD Danessa began working at this call centre to get through university. Now she does it to support her retired parents.
It's really the pay that's motivating me working here in the call center industry. And well, you would notice there are a lot of people, same as my age, so it's a fun environment. Promotion is very fast here in the call center industry because people easily come and go, right? So, for example, there is a vacant position. If someone is actually being profiled for it, that particular person gets the job. As against other industries where you have to wait for a long time to be promoted.
Today, whether it's booking hotels, home shopping, getting IT support, or advice on a corporate helpline, chances are you're phoning the Philippines.
Exactly. All right, well, that's it for me.
JD says most customers assume she is American, but it's not always easy for her to understand customers.
It's really hard sometimes to understand, especially if the client or the customer is from states or their accent is really different from what we're familiar with. It's a bit hard to understand.
With almost 500,000 workers, the Philippines has overtaken India as the world's call centre mecca. In just a decade, call centres have helped outsourcing become an $11 billion industry here.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Call centres like this one teach recruits how to Americanise their accent, as well as grammar and sentence construction.
Remember, even if it's a county, we use in. We don't say on.
How Indians actually speak English. It's more the British English. It's a lot harder for Americans perhaps to understand. And with the Philippine English, it's more neutralized to the US.
JD's boss, Butch Valenzuela, owns 3 call centres in Manila. His foreign clients save up to 60% of their costs through outsourcing. Salaries at Filipino call centres are higher than India, but Butch says his staff are worth it.
Filipino workers, from a customer service perspective, is probably by nature really geared towards customer service work. The culture of Filipinos, the patience that they have, the ability to actually work with people, their demeanor on a call, all helps towards actually making the Filipino contact center worker a good customer service person.
It's not just strong customer service skills. The Philippines has a growing young workforce and have embraced westernisation since its days as a US colony.
I think I already adapted the way I actually do things. Like for example, if I'm speaking with my friends, I sometimes communicate with them in the foreign language already, not in our language.
JD has more options than previous generations who had to go overseas for work. With outsourcing, there will be 500,000 more jobs over the next 3 years.
I have relatives working in other countries, but I'd rather work here with an average salary than really go out. Because all of my friends are here, my family is here.
Founded in Europe, Transcom is one of the big call centre companies in Manila. In the main lobby, there's no shortage of job applicants looking for work. Entry-level salaries here are 40% higher than the minimum wage.
What do big call centres offer Filipino workers?
A couple of things. Essentially stability, job stability and security. We have been growing at 20 to 30% year over year. So the bigger the company becomes, the more stable their jobs become as well.
Siva Subramanian is Transcorp's country manager. He's from Australia and is keen to make his workers feel like locals too.
You're making me homesick for my home country, Australia. You've got kangaroos and koalas and Australian flags up on the walls. I mean, why is that the case?
This particular client is Australian-based client. When employees walk into this call center, they need to embrace the Australian culture, they have to embrace the customer's culture. And so every time an employee comes in and logs in, they're logging in for the client based in Australia and thinking like an Australian, handling the Australian calls. So this is really a design for them to get them in the right mindset before they start taking calls.
This is just one of 4 floors at Transcom, with each housing 1,000 workers, handling calls for multinational corporations. The companies are big names in their fields, but we're not allowed to show you their logos.
We sign a non-disclosure with our clients. We don't promote and market the client's brand without the client's permission. The second part of it is that when somebody goes offshore, that means job losses in their respective countries. So talking about Philippines growing and creating jobs, and when the country that we originated from struggling with high unemployment, there's a propensity to take a negative attitude towards the Philippines and the industry as a whole.
Given the scale of their outsourcing industries, there's a fear of China, India and the Philippines, devouring jobs in Western nations. But Rick Santos says these fears are unfounded. He's a leading real estate figure here, aligned with the American Chamber of Commerce. Today, his company is opening this new building to rent to outsourcing companies.
I think what you'll find is that a lot of these jobs, they're not wanted in the United States. It's too expensive in the United States. And I think what people don't realize, it's actually really helping keep the US and Europe strong, because you need to bring down the cost. You know, the analysts on Wall Street want to see headcount reduction, but these functions still need to be done.
Mr. Santos says offshore arrangements also cut external costs like taxes, giving companies space to grow their workforce at home and explore innovation. Today, there are close to 1,000 multinational companies in the Philippines.
Any of the big names, the banks, the Fortune 500 companies, they're all here. Whether it's, you know, the HSBCs or the JP Morgans or the Wells Fargo, they're outsourcing functions here. They need that work done with the right skills, and that's been very successful. So there's a big, you know, 5 years ago there might have been, well, we're just outsourcing for profit. Now it's a situation where people are outsourcing for survival.
Outsourcing has led to an explosion of wealth in the corporate end of Manila. But can young workers keep up with the demands of an industry that is growing by 30% every year? JD used to play sport, but she says it's hard to exercise given her nocturnal lifestyle.
All of your friends are actually at work. So if you don't have someone to play with, you can't basically play, right? And if you'd actually ask your friends from the industry or from the same company, they would normally say they'd rather sleep or rest.
Like many call centre workers, JD lives with her parents in Manila's working class suburbs. She wakes up at 6 p.m. to get ready for work. It can take her up to 3 hours in manic peak hour traffic to get to the office. With staff turnover rates higher than other local industries, she says it's a draining lifestyle.
Sometimes when I get too tired and I really haven't gotten enough sleep, and then I would go out after shift, it would really take a toll on my health. There will come a time where I'd first need to change gears, but I'm not really thinking about it right now.
But there are ways to fight fatigue and navigate a night shift.
This is Eastwood. It's a city of call centres, one of several districts across Manila dedicated to outsourcing. Those towers behind me are all rented out by international companies. And with that influx of workers comes those other multinational corporations.
Many frequent fast food restaurants which have sprouted up around the call centres. But studies show 47% of workers skip meals and replace them with caffeinated drinks or cigarettes.
Coffee, I take around 4 to 5 cups a night. And Coke, like I take around 3 bottles of Coke just to stay awake.
Cigarette. Keep us awake.
Did you say you feel heart palpitations?
Yes, sometimes. It's okay as long as the customers that we talk to are satisfied. It's okay.
Outsourcing businesses say they try to create healthy workplaces for their workers.
That's why we have the gym, we have sleeping quarters, we have showers. If there's a calamity, a lot of our employees stay in our building, and we do a lot of loans for our employees. We can order books through the company. They can order pharmaceutical products through the company. All these things made us like a family away from a family. We actually challenge our employees to come up with new ideas, challenge them to do things differently, think outside the box.
But thinking outside the box remains a problem for the call centre industry. Few applicants have the critical skills to do outsourcing work.
That is one of the hardest challenges that this industry faces, which is really, hiring people that are qualified people to work in this industry. Our hit rate basically is more or less the same as that industry standard. For every 100 resumes that we receive, we would probably hire 5 people. Not everybody, that apply are really cut out to be in this industry. Not everyone has the skill set.
Dr. Adrian Valdez, a computer science university lecturer, believes the problem stems from a poor education system, which fosters conformity rather than creative thinking.
Do you think they're learning the right skills in high school?
That's a very contentious issue. We've always, if you go to a classroom and you ask students something, most, or if not all, will just keep silent. And I think the reason for that has something to do with their high school and even elementary education, where they are afraid to voice out their opinions. It might be wrong, or because usually in the lower years, teachers tend to scold children for speaking out.
The Philippines hopes to emulate the success of India's IT sector, but there are a shortage of computer engineer and science students in universities, despite government-funded scholarships in these fields. Dr. Valdez says very few students continue onto postgraduate studies. Instead, they're lured by the high salaries offered by outsourcing companies.
Even with the scholarship we are giving, it does not compare with the initial salary that the companies are offering them. So at the end of the day, you just look at those students who are really dedicated, want to learn more. Those are the things that we are able to persuade to go back to their studies, but it's not enough. Imagine we have a scholarship grant and it's undersubscribed.
Foreign companies and the government are trying to improve education standards by introducing specialised subjects on outsourcing into state universities. Dr. Valdez says corporate involvement creates competitive students, but he's concerned about graduates postponing their desired profession for outsourcing work.
It's a problem right now. People tend to go to a profession because of the monetary rewards they get, not because they will be happy doing the job they do. It's a pity in that sense, because of course you want them to develop their skills, their talents, and yet because they are lured to this huge salary, they'd rather go there than become more experts in their chosen field.
Clark is one of 8 cities outside the capital being developed into an outsourcing hub. Kevin Leversee has experience with startup companies in the US and Australia. Now he's trying to build one here, but he says he's struggling to find employees with creativity and an entrepreneurial spirit.
I'll be honest with you, it's really hard. It's tough. The interviews and the applicants that we get, they're looking for a good job. They're looking for the McDonald's menu that says, here you go. But if you go to North America and you go to an IT class in almost any university, and you get, why are you guys going to school? A good portion, especially in California, Silicon Valley, would say, to innovate, start my own company, or be part of a startup. You go here, and they say, to get a good job. And is a good job the answer?
With 4 Filipino workers so far, he's trying to build a service for corporate clients using social media sites on the web. Kevin says if the Philippines doesn't provide innovative services beyond call centres, jobs could shift to Vietnam, Indonesia or Sri Lanka.
They're going to be the slaves of the countries that are focusing on innovation. Everything must change. It has to go away from the Philippines being a support mechanism for Western influence or for the globe into the Philippines as one of innovation. I get laughed at by Filipinos in leadership positions, and I wish I could name them, but I don't want to start a fight, because I say, yes, the Philippines can be the next Silicon Valley.
Most of the major call centres are owned by international businesses, but Butch Valenzuela is one of the few Filipino owners. He fears without more local ownership, multinationals can always move the industry elsewhere.
It is a challenge, I believe, for Filipino contact centers to actually bring themselves into the global stature. When you go look at Indian-owned contact centers, and the operative word is global, the list is very long. But when you go look at Filipino-owned global contact centers, there's virtually none.
But some Filipinos are using outsourcing to take control of their own future. Even a back alley can lead to a back office. We're here to meet Beng. She's a freelance outsourcer working as a secretary in her own home.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Have you ever met your boss face to face?
Not personally, but we get to see each other every day by video conference every day, but face to face, not yet. But like with my role as the receptionist, it's more of like for the phones, answering all the phone calls. We have somebody in the physical office to attend to other aspects of the daily office routine.
Beng answers calls from an Australian education firm. She is provided with an ISP phone to Australia and a fast internet connection for online meetings with colleagues across the continent.
Hey, it's Beng here.
Her freelance outsourcing career began with odesk.com, a commercial website where 2.5 million sole traders do back office work for major companies. 1 in 5 are Filipino.
It's convenience, and you don't have to spend money for your travel, because when you work outside, you have to spend for transportation, for your food, and all that, and you save a lot of time.
She used to work as a secretary in an office environment. This new arrangement allows Beng to raise her 2 sons and finance their extracurricular activities. Many Filipino mothers work as maids or cleaners overseas and never see their children.
I am satisfied with what I am doing right now. I told my boss several times that I can work for them forever. I can imagine myself doing this for the rest of my life because I am happy, I am contented, I am at home, I am with my children. So this is the job for me, and this is the job that I really want. If I had known that I could do this, 10 years ago, I would have done it before.
Her boss, who is based in a rural Australian city, says freelance outsourcing has challenges, but as long as there is reliable internet, it works well for medium-sized businesses.
For us, it was ensuring that we didn't take advantage of outsourced workers. We offer many things that you wouldn't offer to a normal contractor, such as sick leave, such as holiday leave. You know, you read horror stories of companies taking advantage, and we just never want to be in that position.
Do you think in the future these sorts of arrangements will become common?
I think that what will become more common is that the need to have a physical office and a physical presence in the same place will become less and less.
Thank you for calling Fortress Learning. This is Bang. How may I help you?
Most of our communication is electronic or over the internet type communication, such as what we're doing here today. So, look, I think it's the way of the future.
It's not just office jobs, even creative studio work can be outsourced. Grace Damaranan runs a boutique animation company, providing content for e-learning, video game and television producers overseas. Many big corporations use small suppliers like hers.
There is, of course, Disney. We have Cartoon Network, also outsourcing here. Nickelodeon. Because of the cable channels, demand for mobile phone content and internet content, there's a lot of clamor for these kinds of content to be shown.
Whether it's hand-drawn or computer-generated, the craft takes at least 6 months of training, and not everyone makes the cut. Animation has led the way in drawing other creative industries to the Philippines.
Architecture and design has been outsourced. Also some interior designs. Book illustrations are also one that are being outsourced, and there's also script writing.
Like journalism as well?
Yeah, journalism. So there are scripts being done here in the Philippines, and also some editing work, meaning there's already a caption or a text that are being sent, but are being edited by some of our writers here in the Philippines.
But it's just newspapers, right? I don't have to worry just yet?
No, I don't know. It's more of magazines and more of commercial stuff.
But the animation industry in the Philippines is losing ground to other Asian outsourcers who receive millions of dollars in subsidies from their governments.
They are recruiting some of the Filipino artists to work for them because they know that the creative people are here. It's good and bad news. Good news because it's work for our creative people. It's bad because it's a brain drain.
In a country where call centres account for 65% of the outsourcing industry, the challenge lies in funding and finding more innovation.
With regards to skills, I think people in the Philippines are some of the most creative in the world. If you look at things like advertising and bands and musicians and some things that are happening on the software side here now, and the creative agencies, the ad agencies. So I think with regards to that sort of innovation, I think one of the keys will be, once again, bringing some of the overseas Filipinos home that have those PhDs from places like Silicon Valley, and bringing that educational system back in.
The government is adding 2 more years of secondary schooling across the country to help create smarter, highly competitive students. Ben supports this move. Her son wants to become an engineer. She hopes in future he doesn't put that dream career on hold.
If he studies engineering, graduates in an engineering school and passes the board exam, and then, of course, I wouldn't want him to enter, to go into the call center industry and not practice the profession that he studied and wants to go into.
Do you think a few young people go into it and lose sight of the profession that they want to do?
Yes. Like I have a nurse friend who went into the call center industry, and never got to practice their profession. I wouldn't want to happen to my son.
Ben can be with her son through every step of their childhood because of her job. But she believes future generations in this globalised country can offer more to the world than outsourcing.